Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri, and is the world's first single barrel only liquor store. This business is owned and operated by Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot. Head over to abvbarrelshop.com to sign up for their email and text distribution list. That way you'll know what they have in stock, what classes are coming up, and what barrel picks they have in the works. We are also sponsored by The Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers a fully customizable carrying case that allows you to take your favorite distilled spirits or cocktail ingredients with you. Whether you're looking for yourself, a customized gift, or logo items for your business or event, The Bar to Go can help. Check them out at thebar2go.com. Use the number 2 when you type out The Bar to Go. Did you know Neely Family Distillery now ships its popular distilled spirits directly to you? To order, simply call 859-394-3258. Tell them the ABV Network sent you. And now, on to the show.
Let's drink!
Welcome to the Bourbon Daily, the podcast about everything bourbon delivered to you every day of the week. Today on the show, we discuss the minimum knowledge needed to be considered a bourbon fan. My name is Miss Beka Sue. Please join me in welcoming my co-host, Steve Akeley, along with our special guests, Lori Mangum, Danny Kennard, and Lenny Eckstein.
Hey, gang, what's up?
Hey.
Hey-oh. So, yeah, we're going to have a good show today. We're going to get into kind of the minimums that you should have in terms of knowledge to be a bourbon fan. And a lot of people will say, hey, I'm a big bourbon fan, or I'm a big bourbon guy. And but then sometimes if you ask them questions, you might not think so. So I like to, I own a shop now, the ABV Barrel Shop, and this happens frequently. And I know Lenny gets that, and Miss Beka Sue gets that working in their distilleries. And so we'll talk about that. What would be some minimums that you would need to know to live up to that moniker of a big bourbon person? So before we get to that, though, I had a little bit of a story time here. So, and I've got two. It's a 2 for Steve story day. So how about that?
Oh, we are so goddamn lucky.
Yes. So the first one. The first one is we wanted to start carrying some T-shirts and stuff like that from our distillery friends. And Gary Heingartner.
Not zippered.
We'll work on that. Right now, all we have is T-shirts. So Gary Heingartner had said, "Hey, I'm going to be coming into St. Louis. My wife and I are coming up. It's a memorial service. It's at an art gallery. I don't know the details of it beyond that." But he's like, "If you don't mind, I'll bring the T-shirts with me up here and to St. Louis because he lives all the way out in New Florence, Missouri. So it's more than an hour away. So that works out well. I mean, he was going to be pretty close to my house. So I said, yes, I'll go there. And I was excited. Can anybody guess why I would be excited to see Gary on a Sunday? And again, not in the best situation, heading to a memorial service, but that kind of added to my enthusiasm. Anybody have a guess?
Is me dressed up?
Yes, I want to see what Gary Heingartner dressed up looks like. Because Gary's been to my house before, but he's always been in the Gary Heingartner, brand. I mean, so even when he comes to the house, he's got what he would wear at the distillery, which is usually, jeans, work boots, a T-shirt, and suspenders, over the T-shirt. And
so, what did he look like?
Well, kind of the same.
I was gonna say, I feel like he probably looked exactly the same.
Yeah, he had on khakis, which would be different. He usually wears jeans. He had on khakis and his work boots, and then he had on a button-down shirt tucked in with suspenders. So, it was classed up and dressed up a little bit, but for the most part, it was pretty much the same. So
now I'm wondering what you look like dressed up, Steve.
I don't
Steve
know.
Doesn't get dressed up.
Yeah, don't get dressed
anymore.
up. So
Steve doesn't dress up.
I retired from dressing.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
Steve doesn't even own any suits anymore.
No, I don't.
Steve, you had a photo of Gary somewhere, like for an event, and he looked like the toughest son of a bitch I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was flexing, or
he's all jacked up.
Yeah,
his arm is huge,
and his arm looked like it was like the biggest, muscly man I've ever seen in my life.
I missed that.
It was awesome, and I was kind of hoping, like, when he was dressed up, it was something I like. Kind of like Gangs of New York style.
Right. Right.
Just looked like an absolute badass.
I figured you never know with Gary. I mean, it could be anything. That's why I was kind of all excited about this. I was like, you don't know. And I was like, oh, he kind of looks like he normally does. Just a little bit different.
A little bit dressed up.
So my second story, again, just take this for what it is. Take it for the humorous side. I mean, if you think about the story too much, there's a very sad element to it because it involves our buddy Rick Renner, who of course is battling ALS and has really been struggling. He's been in the hospital for 4 to 5 weeks now, and he's getting out on Wednesday. But there is a little bit of good news there in that communication becomes a problem. And he had the trach, and over 90% of the people that have a trach can never eat again or anything solid foods, but about 10% can, and luckily for the legend, he is able to do that. So there's a process. They have to deflate like this thing in his throat, and then he can actually talk, but just for a short amount of time. And it's a whisper. It's not regular conversation talk, but that's huge. Just the ability when you can't communicate at all to being able to whisper a little bit. So Fosnot goes to see him. And they do that. They deflate the thing that's in his throat that allows him, a little bit of time to have a whisper type of talk so he can talk to Jim. And guess what he says?
What did he say?
Oh, it's so great. And this is why a guy becomes a legend. People ask me why he becomes a legend. And it just adds to it. He says, Jim, can you get me a bottle of that Hidden Barn when it comes out that you and Steve are going to be selling? I want to buy one. I mean, this guy's a legend. This is why he's the legend. Yeah, all this stuff's going on.
That, but
yeah. All this stuff's going on.
Did you tell Royce that?
No, I haven't told Royce that. I wanted to save it for the show. It's just gold. I mean, he's still aware of what's going on. He's struggling where now even texting he can't really with his hands. He can look on the internet just enough. He can kind of scroll. So he's seeing what's going on Facebook. For a while, he was interacting in that. He can't really do that like he was. But he knows what's going on, and that's the sad part of it. But I don't want to focus. I want to sort of focus on the funny part of it, that he gets a limited amount of time, can say a few things, and the thing he says is he wants to buy a bottle of the Hidden Barn.
That's what he must use his energy for.
That's priorities right there.
Yeah, because he can. That's the good thing with being able to swallow. He can taste a little bit. It's not like he can drink bourbon or knock down a few, but he can taste it. He can.
Well, usually he's like, I want to buy a case of it.
Right.
That's what I'm kind of shocked of.
But it's just so funny that he could say something. He's got a limit. It's even a limit because once he runs out of the breath or whatever, he's got to go back on the thing, and then he's out for a while. But man, Jim, I want to buy a bottle of that Hidden Barn.
First thing.
Oh, that's great.
Royce
It's
is gonna love that.
Yeah, it's just
That
just
is
hilarious.
fantastic.
Go ahead and set a few aside.
Yeah. We'll definitely have one for him, no doubt.
Well,
Anybody can complain about that wants to. The legend gets to get his bottle for sure.
You've got your special barrel, Steve.
Yes, I know.
Already picked.
That was
That was
so
the very
cool.
first thing that they did when they were here tasting samples for the next batch.
I love it.
And
so I can't
they said,
wait to get that.
oh, with this next batch, we need a little bit more of a good fruity profile to it. And they said, should we just steal Steve's?
No.
They didn't, but they thought about it.
Bastards.
We need it for the next batch.
Yeah.
Well, I am sorry, but I have been on a barrel pick there at Neely's, and it kind of sucks that I went to Oklahoma and I found the barrel that we made.
Yeah, they sold it up from
Oklahoma.
under us.
We sent it all to you, Danny.
Yeah,
No,
they knew you were going to be
it
out
was
there.
in Oklahoma.
They knew
and
you were
I
going to
had
head to
purchase
Oklahoma.
it.
Yeah, I knew.
I'm from Texas. I shouldn't have done that. That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing.
Very sorry, but sometimes that's just how things go.
Yeah. So, all right, gang. Well, guess what? It's time to drink. What is everyone drinking? I'll start this thing off. I got a bottle of Blanton's I bought in the Neely Family Distillery gift shop recently. So check them out for all your Blanton's needs. Here we go. Cork pop. Nah, nothing there. Neely's, work on your Blanton's.
I'm sorry, we did not bottle that correctly for sure.
All right. That's just a joke because Beka got someone stopping in wanting to buy some Blanton's. I mean, it's a distillery. They called. Okay. They called.
Asking for the Blantons.
Yeah, of course. All right. Lenny, you're next. What do you got?
I've got a recently scored bottle of Wyoming whiskeys. They've got this National Park series that I wasn't aware of. So this is number 2. It's got Yellowstone on the front, and I was just in Yellowstone, so I thought, why not?
Okay.
It's also warm. I'm not afraid of warm whiskey, warm bourbon.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty good for Lenny.
Wow. That was, as far as I'm concerned, that was thunderous. That was
yeah, that was one of your best ones ever. So
way to be louder.
yeah. All right, Lori, what do you got?
Lori, you're
Lori's
on
on
mute.
mute.
You're on mute.
Lori's on mute.
We're 3 fucking years into a pandemic and people still have to tell me, Lori, you're on mute. I'm drinking a small batch single barrel from Boone County that they made for my friends up at Cancer Support Community.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Lenny, sorry. The dream is over.
Yeah,
I'll bow
Yeah.
out.
Sorry, Lenny.
that was
That
awesome.
was good.
That was really good.
Woo.
Okay.
She's
All right.
back,
Lori's got the
everybody.
lead. That's going to be tough to beat. Beka, then now might be the time to grab for a sample.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
like-
see a beat in that one.
No.
I don't have any samples to taste tonight because I've been doing that too often. So I wanted to make sure I actually had real bottles once again. But this is a well-loved, not a, like this, an actually well-loved. Let's just be clear.
Right. Not like Jeff from Iowa.
Not a Jeff from Iowa well-loved. This is at least, this is, more than half gone bottle of Buzzard's Roost Sippin' Whiskey, the Toasted Barrel Straight Rye Whiskey. This is a pretty good one. But it's not been open for a while. Let's see if it does anything.
Okay. Nice base.
Okay,
Nice
you
base.
say good
Yeah.
base, but Lori's smashed.
Yeah,
She's all
Lori's-
about that bass. About
Lori,
that bass.
yeah, Lori's definitely got the lead there. So, Danny, what do you got?
Nothing, because I've got a screw top, but it's old Overvolt
Danny.
114.
Oh,
Nice.
I got one of those.
So
Make the sound with your mouth.
Pop.
Oh,
That's
oh,
it,
Not
that's
enough.
it.
Not enough.
hit it out of the water. Cheers, Lori.
Cheers, gang.
All
Congrats,
right,
Lori.
guys. Cheers, everybody.
Congratulations.
All right, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about this idea of the minimums to be considered to become a true bourbon person. We'll do that in just a few. Let's talk about the people who make these shows happen. First up is the ABV Barrel Shop. It is the most unique shopping experience in the world of bourbon, as the ABV Barrel Shop only sells single barrels. Owners Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot select. With over 100 distilleries on board to sell us barrels, we are home to the most unique and diverse barrel pick selections in the bourbon world. By signing up for our email, you will always know what we have in stock. In addition to the single barrels, we'll have a gift shop featuring ABV Barrel Shop as well as ABV Network merchandise. We are partnering with vendors like Art Eatables and Old Man Bay Signs to bring you unique items you can't find anywhere else. We will also have a 24-seat classroom where we are offering educational and fun classes like Breakfast and Bourbon, a series where we pair donuts and bourbon, customer barrel picks, and opportunities to learn from master distillers and other bourbon dignitaries. Best of all, we feature a tasting bar where you can try before you buy. All of this is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri. If you are in the St. Louis area, please stop by to say hi. If you're traveling in from outside the area, please take advantage of our hotel rates with the Drury Inn and Pear Tree Inn, less than a mile from our shop. This can be done via the links in our Visit St. Louis section on our website. Head over to abvbarrelshop.com to plan your trip. The ABV Barrel Shop. It's where single barrels live. Hi, this is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network. We're sponsored by the Stave and Thief Society. This is where you, a bourbon enthusiast, can expand your knowledge and emerge a bourbon steward. In 2017, I completed my Executive Bourbon Steward certification. It's the most comprehensive bourbon certification program available and connects you with an expansive network of bourbon enthusiasts and professionals. Check out the full listing of in-person and online certifications and join the society today by enrolling at staveandthief.com. Okay, let's talk about the Neely Family Distillery. In 2018, I met Royce Neely at an industry event. He started appearing on our shows, and we became friends during my frequent trips to Kentucky. Today, he is amongst the leaders of young distillers leaving their mark on the bourbon industry. A visit to Neely Family Distillery yields insight on their unique family history, why their products are special, and gives you the opportunity to taste their whiskey, moonshine, and creams. Check them out at NeelyFamilyDistillery.com or visit them in Sparta, Kentucky.
This is Denny Kennard, and my altar drinking Edo is Freddie Miller. I'll drink to that.
Welcome back to the Bourbon Daily. Today we're talking about the bare minimum to be a bourbon fan.
Yes, we are. So I don't really understand why someone comes in to like a liquor store like I've got the Barrel Shop, and announces that they're a big bourbon person. So I don't ask them to do that. I don't say, "Are you a small bourbon person or a big bourbon person? Or here's the scale. Tell us where you fit." Nothing like that. People throw that out there for some reason, and I always followed up with the same question. What do you think of Stumpy Spirits? That's pretty cool on there. And I don't think I've had one yet that tells me they're a big bourbon person living in St. Louis that says, "Oh man, it's a great place." Most of them like Stumpy Spirits. Either they haven't heard of it or they haven't been there. And are you really a big bourbon person if you're not going to one of the best distilleries in your hometown? I think that's kind of one of the minimums, I think, to go to the distilleries
you need to
that are
at
near
least
you.
check it out.
Get to know them. Yeah, check them out. Get to know them.
It's fine if they
Right.
don't like Neely. It's fine if they don't like Stumpy. It's fine if they don't like Boone County. It's fine if they don't like one of those, like one in their hometown. That's okay if you don't like
It's
us.
okay, right.
But if
you should check it out. Yeah.
You've never, for one, heard of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you've never had anything, and if you've never heard of us, obviously that's a big deal. But if you've never even had anything, or you've never even been to the distillery, like you should at least, if you're a big bourbon person, you should at least go to the distillery in your fucking town.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that is weird.
Yeah.
If you're you're saying out loud,
You're
"I'm a
the
big
one
bourbon
saying
person,"
it.
but you're
Right,
not actually
right.
actively going to a distillery that is in your own hometown. That's not a small distillery. Stumpy's is a big
right.
place.
Yeah, and nor is it brand new. I mean, you're talking 7 years, something like that. Yeah. So enough time that you could have
Yeah, they're
found
not a
something.
brand new place, and they've won awards.
Right.
They're in the big liquor stores or in the big grocery stores. Like that's not as like it's now if someone in Kentucky doesn't know who Stumpy Spirits is, that's different because we're
No, it's different.
But in your own
that's
town,
Right.
you should
Right.
know the distilleries.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that, Steve.
Okay. Good. That's the start. Anything else that anybody can think of that would be kind of minimum knowledge?
Okay.
You got one?
This is something and this is not hate or shade to either of these brands whatsoever.
It's okay if it is.
I'm not going to say anything after that. But if someone comes into the distillery and I go, "So are you guys big like bourbon people?" And they go, "Oh yeah, big bourbon guy. Love bourbon, favorite thing." And I go, "Oh, okay, what's your favorite bourbon?" And once again, this is no hate to either one of these, and there's nothing wrong with either one of these products. But if these are the only products that you can come up with, then I know that you're not that big of a bourbon fan necessarily. If they just say Woodford Reserve,
Yeah.
or if they say Basil Hayden, those are the two that if someone walks in and just says those, or if they say Blanton's, then I know that you're just
Angel's Envy. That's another one that gets me.
I don't hate as much on Angel's Envy, but just like those three, if you say Blanton's, or you say Basil Hayden, or you say Woodford Reserve, then and they don't specify. Now when someone goes, "Well, I really like the double oaked from Woodford Reserve," then I go, "Okay, so they did they've tried more, like they've had some different ones, and they specified which one it is that they really like."
Right.
Then I'm like, okay, that's fine. But if they just say Woodford Reserve because they've flown Delta a lot and that's what's served on Delta, and so that's what they drink, and then Basil Hayden because it was always kind of a different kind of cool bottle, and so that's always what a lot of people picked up. Which once again, there's nothing wrong with
I feel
any
like
of those brands.
I feel like they've just graduated one step up, though, Beka. It's like they're probably drinking Jim Beam White Label for a while or Maker's Mark, and then they go up to that and they're like, "Oh, well, now I'm a big bourbon guy because I'm now moved up to the next level." They think this is it, but they're just at the beginning still.
You see, that's the beginning.
Right.
That's a beginner step, and it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
And when they're open to tasting more and more things, and that's that's great that they found something that they initially like, and maybe that's what you always like, and that's fine too because everyone's palate's different, but. If that's what they say when they say that, and they can't list anything else off, and they don't say anything else, then I go, "Oh, okay." So they're not like a big bourbon person. They like bourbon, which is fine, but they're not exactly a fan per se. They just like to drink some bourbon.
Right.
I think all these things are spot on, but here's another kind of interesting angle. I found that a lot of things, but when somebody. I was motorcycle trip for 11 days. One of the guys from Texas who joined us, he ordered Woodford everywhere. But here's the thing, like he was a bourbon guy. I mean, okay, but like, give
Oh,
credit to
your
those
internet's so
who
bad,
try.
Lenny. We're trying. We
You're a
tried.
robot, Lenny.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow.
I
let
really
me
want
shut
to
off
know
my
what he's
video.
saying too. That's why we were listening intently.
I
but I'm
know,
like,
because
We're
it
all
sounded
like-
like it was going to be good. But,
Listen,
okay.
We're leaning in
Can
like
you hear
it's
me
going
now?
to
I
make
shut
it
my
better.
video off.
Yeah, that helps.
That helps,
Seemingly.
yeah.
Right now,
Okay.
it's good.
Sorry, I blame the mountain internet in Buena
Always.
Vista.
Mhm.
I guess where I was going with that was that, I can't really hate on them. They're trying. And as long as they don't proclaim themselves as a big bourbon guy, or particularly not an aficionado, I think that's the pits when someone refers to themselves as a connoisseur or aficionado.
Right.
You know,
And I'm not being critical of newbies. I want to be
No,
very
no,
clear.
this is not
Everyone has
against
to start
newbies.
somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not against newbies. But it's people
And
that are
that's
really.
what I mean by the Woodford and Basil. That's
Yeah.
a starting point.
Yeah.
you know,
They're people that are really newbies, but acting like they know a lot, and that's what gets to it. That's the point of the show here. Is not
Yeah.
saying anybody who's a newbie is an idiot. No, that's not it at all. You're taking it the wrong
Gotta
way.
start
If anybody
somewhere.
thinks that. Yeah,
but
yeah.
also like if someone cites a brand that they're really happy about and they want to talk up, and you let them know that they're like, hey, that's cool, but that brand, like, that's MGP, and MGP makes great
Right.
stuff. But you
That's
should know
another thing
that.
too. Yeah.
And
Know
you look
who's
at them,
distilling
it
your
looks like
product.
You punched them in
Yeah.
the stomach and just
Yeah.
took all the wind out of their sails. That
Yeah.
sucks. I've learned not to do that sometimes.
Oh, I love doing that.
Oh yeah.
I do that at every moment that I can.
Yeah.
If someone tells me that they really like this brand, but this other brand they think sucks, and
Right.
I know for a fact both of them
That they're
are
both made.
from Barton.
MGP. Yeah.
Or,
Or
say
Barton or
either
whatever it
MGP,
is, yeah.
they're both from Barton, and they're like, well, these guys suck, but like this other one's really good. And I'm like, you know that's the exact same stuff, right? And they're like, no, it's not. It is Billy the Kid's brand, and this one's Bobby Hilfiger's brand. And I'm like, no, that doesn't matter. It's a brand, and they source the product from the exact same fucking distillery. They're the exact same years old. They're the exact same
Yeah.
barrels and
You know
different
what I
brand.
find though that
Yeah.
that works out well is with and it obviously wouldn't be for this crowd, but when folks say no, I just drink bourbon, I don't like rye. I love breaking in with the like, you might actually like rye, but in the last X amount of years, the majority of the ryes in the market are all from the same distillery. So maybe you don't like that
Yeah.
distillery's rye.
Right. Yeah.
And they
That's
usually kind of
exactly
open up with that.
true.
They're like, oh, tell me more. That's interesting. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm always like, if they think they're a big bourbon guy or girl, if I can push them along to the point where maybe they are.
You can't put a blanket statement. I don't like rye, and then you need to try. Well, what about a Kentucky rye, where it's a majority rye, but there's a high corn content in there. That's a totally different tasting than a 95.5 MGP
Yeah.
rye.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be very
Right.
We also and this is, to me, this isn't even like most. I don't feel like even a ton of bourbon fans necessarily know their mash bills exactly. But we get a lot of people in the distillery so we're very clear on our bottles what is inside of it.
right.
And when people come in and ask like, oh, what bourbon is on the shelf? I go, well, we've got a high rye bourbon, we've got a 4-grain, and we have a wheat on the shelf right now as well. And they go, ooh, no, I don't like the rye. And I go, and then I also say, and we have a rye whiskey. And they're like, no, I don't like rye. And I'm like, oh, what about the high rye bourbon? And they go, no, I just don't like ryes. And I'm like, listen, you probably do. And they're like, no, I just like really don't like rye. And I'm like, you think you don't like rye whiskey, which is fine. Rye whiskey and rye bourbon are two different things. And they're like, no, I just like don't like rye. And I'm like, okay, so what do you like to drink?
Right.
And like, not all. I mean, there's obviously there's wheated bourbon out there too, but most bourbon, or not most, but a lot of bourbon has some sort of a rye content to it. Not all of them.
Yeah.
But
Right.
But if they
Yeah.
say specifically that they like Larceny and Maker's Mark, then okay, they're more geared towards wheats.
Right.
But if they like list out and a lot of other,
To your point, yeah, let your palate decide.
Yeah,
Quit
and I'm
quit
like,
in your
just
mind saying I don't drink
try.
this or that.
And
Try it.
This is why we do tastings. And I go, you really should try the rye. It's really, really good. It's like, it's complex. It's delicious. Like, and then they try it. They go, oh, maybe I do like rye. And I'm like, no, you like this bourbon
This
that has
one.
rye in it.
Yeah.
This is not a rye whiskey. And I explained that on a tasting too. I go, this is a rye bourbon. This is a rye whiskey. There is a difference. You should
Right.
still try the rye whiskey. It is also still very good. But this is a rye bourbon. And so and they taste them and they go, wow, those taste completely different. And I'm like, That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's really it, right? Like, Steve, the discussion, your question, like, I feel like there's a threshold, and I mean, somebody does need a badge to proclaim whether they're a big bourbon person or not. But I think to me, the qualifier, that threshold
Sticker.
they cross, yeah, they can wear that sticker.
Lenny has a sticker that
Courtesy of
says,
beer.
"I'm a big bourbon guy." So he's apparently heard this
I
enough.
want one of
He's-
those.
Happy to mail them out. But I think like once one is willing to entertain anything, less, and have the ability to evaluate and discern and not give into public opinion on things. And, I think that's when someone really has crossed that point, and, they
Right.
don't need to brag about it, but then they can understand in their own head,
Just
okay,
try stuff.
I get this stuff. And there's always more to learn
Yeah.
versus just proclaiming what you think you know.
Just
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
things. And like, because we get obviously all types in the distillery. We get people who are brand new people. We get people who are big bourbon guys. We get people who are actually big bourbon people. And the ones who are like actually into bourbon are usually the ones who are the most open to trying anything that we have. And I'll go through and I'll explain, like, we got, if we got 5 different whiskeys to drink, 4 of them are bourbon, one's a rye, and I go, how many would you like to taste? And they go, I honestly just want to taste them all because I just want to see what the difference is and figure out what I like.
Right.
And then when I say to people who are big bourbon guys, they go, it's just going to be the wheat for me.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah.
you just walked in here and said you fucking like bourbon, but you only want to taste one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, Jim and I like to have a little fun with the people that have these preconceived notions, because we're getting some that are walking in and they'll pick up a couple of them that are near the front door and be like, well, do you have any lower proof? I don't like high proof whiskey. And I'm like, so Jim and I always have the same thing. We're like, oh, we got the one for you. Because we know that our 10th mountain pick is extremely smooth drinking. So we have them try that. And we're like, yes, we've got one for you. Here, try this. And they try it, after we explain that we're all cast strength, and then we say, here, try this one. And they're like, exactly, this is what I'm talking about. So you have, and we always say, okay, well, what do you think the proof is? And they're like, this has got to be, most of them, we've heard as low as 80, but most of them are in the 90 to 95, and it's 118.4. And I'm like, oh, so maybe you do like high proof. It's just got to find the right one, right? That's why you got to try it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We've sold more bottles that way. I can't believe how many people have walked in and said, I don't like high proof, and have walked out of there with that bottle of 118.4. Yeah, it's great.
So back to the actual topic of discussion, I would say that to be a true bourbon person, you need to be willing to taste whatever is
Everything.
being presented to you.
Yeah.
And go in
not
with
making
an open
judgments. Yeah. Based on.
don't make a judgment based off of what the mash
you're
bill
thinking
is.
it might be. Yeah.
And because I mean, even I explain bourbon to people in the context of bread a lot. Is something I've started doing because people understand that there's different types of bread because they go to Subway.
That's a really good way to approach
they go
that.
to
with somebody
Subway.
who doesn't have a lot of
Seriously, I mean,
reference.
like, because say they have a Reuben, and I go, "What kind of bread would you have with a Reuben? What are you gonna? What do you order with when you go to Subway? What do you do? Like, do you get a sourdough when you go somewhere else?" And they're like, "Oh," and I go, "That's why these are." I go, "If I put these all out, and I just said these are all different types of bread, you would understand that." And they're like, "Yeah," and I go, "And that's how the bourbon is." And sometimes you're not in the mood for wheat bread. And sometimes you need a rye bread, or sometimes whatever. And then all of a sudden it clicks in their heads. And I just, because bread makes sense to people better than like explaining a mash bill to people does.
Yeah.
And they're like, I go, sometimes you're
that.
going to be in the mood for a rye whiskey, and sometimes you'll be in the mood for a wheated bourbon or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
just like try out different things because you might like it better.
Yeah. Danny, what do you think about all this? What's a minimum that someone should do or be or know about to be a true bourbon fan?
Well, I think you should explore your options, first of all, because I mean, there is so many different options out there. Like it's been discussed, there's a high rye bourbon, there's a wheated bourbon, there's different versions of everything. But then you've got your rye whiskeys, which Toronto does fold on over to the fact is, okay, if I'm a high rye bourbon guy, well, I'm also going to like the rye whiskeys also. So
sure. Yeah. Yeah. And you never know. Again, that's what's so neat and great about bourbon or rye is that, especially when you're talking about single barrels, they're going to be different and you want to try them because you never know. You might think you're not a rye person at all.
You got to try everything.
Yeah, you got to try everything.
You need to try it from different places. You need to do other distilleries. You need to taste all the different mash bills that they have at all the different types of distilleries because everyone's going to be different. I think that's a big thing about being an actual bourbon person is tasting different things from different distilleries.
Right. Yeah. But then when distilleries do the thing with, okay, I've got a 2-year here. Now I'm releasing a 4-year. You got to go back and try the 4. You may have tried the 2-year and you may not like it. But it is really important to go back and try the 4 years.
Give your craft distilleries a chance. Yes, it takes a while. It takes a while for them to find their stride, and that. Yeah, I think that is a good one too, Danny. That's great.
Yeah, giving places another chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
so,
big. What's another?
Well, there you go. There's a few minimum standards that you should adhere to if you want to declare yourself a big bourbon person. So, all right, we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Lori, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Spirited Curves.
Lenny.
Find me and the rest of Deerhammer on social media at Deerhammer. On the web at deerhammer.com, where you can order our bottles shipped to you, and you should come visit us in beautiful Buena Vista, Colorado.
All right, Danny.
You can find me at Danny Kennard on Facebook.
All right, Miss Beka Sue.
You can find me at Neely Family Distillery, educating you about different mash bills. And you can also find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Miss Beka Sue, 1K, no C's.
For me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got a company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. Previous shows, blogs, so much more, abvnetwork.com. Miss Beka Sue, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd just like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review that includes comments. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. If you like what we're doing, we ask you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
All right, great job today, gang. For audience, we'll have a brand new show for you tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Later.
Peace. Before we finish the show, let's talk about some great companies that support the ABV network. First up is Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro has a full line of products to help the home distiller. Whether you want to experiment on the stove in your kitchen or you're looking for a bigger setup in your backyard, owner Russell Creed and his team can help. They have multiple still offerings, accessories, and even grain from their partners at Goldstone Mill to assist you in making whiskey on par with your favorite distillery. They can also help you with some fabricated parts you probably can't make yourself if you are attempting a DIY still project. Learn more or order your still or parts at moonshinestillpro.com. Another friend of ours is the Goldstein family at Goldstone Mill. The Goldsteins offer a variety of heritage and heirloom grains to make the finest whiskeys in the world. Plus, they are more than just a grain company. They are truly consultants to make sure the grains they are providing to you or your business meet your highest expectations. Additionally, they work with mills around the country, ensuring shipping is as low as possible for their customers. If you're a distillery, brewery, or even doing this at home, Goldstone can assist you. Check them out at goldstonemill.com, call them at 217-254-6613, or check in via email at hello@goldstonemill.com. Last but not least is the ABV Barrel Shop. While we don't get to play in the allocated bourbon game because we aren't selling the other products you have to do to get those, we do have access via our friendships in the bourbon industry to some really cool stuff. Have you ever seen your favorite craft distiller selling some really cool limited offerings only in their gift shop? I'm talking things like the hazmat offering Distillery 291 did for their 10th anniversary, or Neely Family Distillery's Papaw's birthday barrel. They don't have enough of it to send it out to distributors, so they only sell it via their gift shop. Well, companies like Distillery 291 and Neely Family Distillery have agreed to sell us 2 or 3 cases of these offerings moving forward, meaning our store will have the access to some of the rarest whiskeys in the world. Way more difficult to come by than the allocated bourbon offerings with a national release. Yes, they will be extremely tough to come by, but if you're a customer of our store, you'll have a chance to get them. Get signed up for our email or text list over at abvbarrelshop.com so you don't miss out.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.